Okay guys, so we're about to start our last topic for right triangle trig, and that is drawing a picture problems, or as you guys normally hear them called, word problems. I call them draw picture problems because that's basically all word problems are. Read the problem, draw the picture, and now you got the same type of problem we've been doing. So let's take a look at our first example here. Let's take a look. So it says, a crow is on the ground 80 feet from the base of a 45-foot tall tree. It then flies straight through the air to the top of the tree. What is the angle of the crow's flight path relative to the ground? Okay, so let's break this down. Keep in mind, we know we're doing right triangle trig problem, so we're probably going to need a right triangle. So that's what we should end up with. And if you want to, you can just go ahead and start with a right triangle. But let's actually draw a good right triangle here. All right, so we got a right triangle. So let's go ahead and read. A crow is on the ground 80 feet from the base of a 45-foot tall tree. Okay, so we got a crow. There's a bird over here. I'm just going to write bird because I cannot draw one. A bird is on the ground. It's 80 feet from the base of a tree. So over here, let's be real legit with this tree here. Over here we got a tree. Put some... We got a tree over here, and that tree is 45 feet tall. So that means this line here is 45 feet. Okay, and then it says a crow is on the ground 80 feet from the base. So the base of the tree just means the bottom of the tree. And so the crow is 80 feet from that base. Okay. Now it says, what is the angle of the crow's flight path relative to the ground? So the bird's flying along this line here. So we want to know the angle of the crow's flight path relative to the ground. So the flight path is this, the ground is this. So this is the angle they want us to find. All right, so basically now all we have is a right triangle. We have two sides and an angle. So we're going to follow our same 4 steps. First part, identify your angle. Well, that's the x. Perfect. Next step, identify the sides. Well, 45 is opposite of x. And 80 is adjacent to x. Next step, pick your trig functions. Let's write those out. See which one has opposite and adjacent. So SOHCAHTOA. Oh, tangent. Opposite and adjacent. All right, that's one we're using. So we're going to say the tangent of our angle, step 4, writing your equation, is equal to the opposite, 45, over the adjacent, 80. Now, we want to solve for x. So x is an angle. So to solve for the angle, we got to remember, guys, you always, when you solve for an angle, use the inverse. And that's the only time you'll use the inverse, is when you're solving for the angle. I'm going to say x is equal to the inverse tangent of 45 over 80. From here, this is a put in the calculator problem. Let's bust out our calculator here. Inverse tangent of 45 divided by 80. Hit enter. There's our answer there. X is equal to 29.357, but that 7 is going to cause that next 7, the sum before it, to round up. So we got 29.358 degrees. All right, so let's get that on here. X is equal to 25.358 degrees. Let's check that. I can't remember. Is that what it was? 29.358. I made a mistake. Let's adjust. 29.358. And that's it, guys. All right, you've done your first right triangle trig word problem. That's all there is to it. Okay, so take a minute if you need to get that down still. Pause, get that down. All right, so let's take a look at our next problem. Actually, before we do that, we need to talk about 2 terms. Okay, and these terms are called the angle of elevation and the angle of depression. So really, these 2 angles are actually the same exact angle. If you look at this picture here, angle 1 and angle 2 are actually the same angle. They're the same value, but one is made from a right triangle going this way. Let me change colors here. One's made from a right triangle from looking above, going down, like that, and one is made from a right triangle looking up, so going from the bottom, looking up. So if it's the angle of elevation, then you're looking up, because if you elevate, you're going up. It's the angle of depression, it's looking down, because think about it, if you're depressed, you're probably looking down at the ground as opposed to looking up. But keep in mind this angle of depression and this angle of elevation are the same value. It's the same angle. It's just which direction are you looking from. Okay, but those are the only two things we need to worry about. So let's take a look now at this next problem. So it says a building which is 30 feet tall cast a 5-foot shadow. What is the angle of elevation to the sun? So we have angle of elevation, so that means because we're angle of elevation, we're going to be looking up. So that means our angle is going to be looking up. So that means my right triangle is going to look like this. And the angle of elevation is going to be that piece. So it says we have a building. So let's do, oops, wrong thing. Let's do a silver building. We got a silver building here. Put some windows in our building. They're weird shaped windows. It's an abstract building. And we got a little door down here. Okay, so there's our building. And what we need to do now is it says the building, which is 30 feet tall. So this building's got a lot of windows for only 30 feet, but that's okay. 30 feet tall. Cast a shadow of 5 feet. So a shadow, keep in mind guys, a shadow is always going to be on the ground, just like it was when we did those similarity problems. So a 5-foot shadow. And says, what is the angle of elevation to the sun? So really what's happening here is the sun is up over here casting a shadow down onto the ground, casting that 5-foot shadow. So now that we got our sun, let's add a little red in here, a little orange I mean, maybe, and some red, and some more yellow. All right, we got beautiful sun there. All right, so the sun is projecting a light ray down here and is making this shadow from the building. So what we want to do is basically we're going to do the same thing we always do. We're going to find this angle of elevation by following the same 4 steps. First, identify your angle. Well, here's the angle. Step 2, identify your sides. Well, 30 is opposite and 5 is adjacent. Then pick your trig function. So remember, toa. One with opposite and adjacent is tangent. So the tangent of x is equal to opposite 30 over adjacent 5. And from here, remember when you're solving for that angle, you use the inverse. So we're going to say x is equal to the inverse tangent of 30 divided by 5. Now from here, we just got to solve by putting this in our calculator. So we're going to do shift tangent. So inverse tangent of 30 divided by 5, 80.538. So x is equal to 80.538 degrees. And that's it. So it's all there is to this problem, guys. So all a word problem is something where you have to draw the picture so that you can solve the problem. Once you draw the picture, the problem is just like we've been doing this whole time. It's nothing new. All right, I think we got one more word problem example, and I'm going to leave some for you guys to try. Sorry, if you need to pause here to check this out, go ahead and pause. All right, now let's take a look at the next problem. So it says, suppose you're flying a kite and it gets caught at the top of the tree. Oh no, not my kite. You've let out all 100 feet of the string for the kite. Whew, that was a long string. And the angle of depression from the top of the tree is 75 degrees. That's interesting. I wonder how you know that. Oh well, moving on. Instead of worrying about how to get your kite back, you wonder, how tall is that tree? That's a normal thing to wonder. So let's take a look. Let's draw a quick sketch here. So we got a tree going on. So let me draw my tree. And up in this wonderful tree is our kite, and it is stuck up in this tree. Then we have on our kite a string. Let's say we got a orange string on our kite. So we got a string on our kite, just like so. We've pulled it tight. We've let out all 100 feet of it. It's tight. And what we know about this is that our kite string, this orange line, is 100 feet long. And then the angle of depression, let me rewrite that. That's 100 feet. The angle of depression from the top of the tree, so where our kite is, to the ground is 75 degrees. So angle of depression means we're going to have a triangle that looks more, oops, get out of hand. Triangle that looks more like this. So the triangle that the right angle is up here. So this is our angle of depression, 75 degrees there. Now, we said instead of worrying about how tall it, or how to get our kite down, we want to know how tall is that tree. So looking at this triangle here with our orange side, which is the string, and then these two sides, which of these two sides do you guys think will be the height? Hopefully you picked this side, so this is our x. So that's what we want to find. So to do that, all we're going to do is we're going to follow our same right triangle trig steps. Step 1, identify your angle. Well, there is our angle. That's our 75. Step 2, identify your sides. X is opposite that angle, and 100 is opposite the right angle, so it's the hypotenuse. So I found my opposite, my hypotenuse. Step 3, pick your trig function. So remember sine, opposite over hypotenuse, so cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse, ca, tangent, opposite adjacent, OA. So we have opposite and hypotenuse, that is the sine function. So now we got to do is write our equation. The sine of our angle 75 is equal to opposite x over hypotenuse 100. From here, we just got to solve this equation for x. Remember the variables on the top, multiply those two numbers. So we're going to say x is equal to 100 times the sine of 75. From there, that's a calculated problem. Put it in. We're going to do 100 times the sine of 75. Hit enter. And we get 96.593. Ooh, that is a tall tree. X is equal to 96, I believe I said. Yeah, 96.593. And there we go. That's how you do the problem. So guys, keep in mind, if it's an angle of depression, you want a triangle that looks like this where the right angle is up on the top. And if it's an angle of elevation, you want it to where the right angle is in the bottom and your angle is looking up. But basically they're the same angle. I could have drawn this triangle like this. Let's do dotted. Could have drawn it like this and got the same answer. So it wouldn't have made any difference. The angle of depression would have just went right here, and that would have become an angle of elevation. But still the same exact thing. All right, so what I want you guys to do now that we've done 3 examples of draw your own picture problems, I want you guys to look at the worksheet that you have and try out problems 1 through 3. So try out those problems. Take about 5 to 10 minutes to try those out, and then come back and check out the answers. So go ahead and pause now. All right, guys, so here's the 3 answers that I got for 1, 2, and 3 on your worksheet for angle of elevation and angle of depression. So the answer key to this worksheet is already posted on the website in Unit 4. So you can go to the website here and check that out in Unit 4 if you want to check your work. But I did use the tangent function for all 3 of these in case you're wondering what trig function I used. All right, so Right now, guys, I want to do a quick another understanding check here. So we got one more problem I want you guys to try. Everyone try this one. Try not to use any notes. Just try this one and see what you get. Okay, take a look at this. Pause now. Take about 3 minutes to do this problem, and then come back and we'll talk about it. Okay, guys, so I read through the problem, and here's what I came up with for a picture. So we got a ladder that is not 100 feet, but 110 feet tall. So we got that. And keep in mind, a ladder, if you think about it, when you use the ladder, you lean it up against the wall. So it's on the wall and on the ground. Those are 2 points. So that's how I knew the ladder was going to be the hypotenuse of this right triangle, because it's going to be that slant. A ladder, you wouldn't want on the ground. That's kind of useless. You can't use a ladder straight up and down because then it'll tip over. So that's what we got. Ladder there. And then it says the safety regulation states that they can use it for rescues up to 100 feet off the ground. So direct distance off the ground would be the straight up and down line. So our max height is 100 feet there. And then it says, what is the maximum safe angle of elevation? So remember, angle of elevation means look up. So you have to start on the ground to look up. So this is my angle of elevation. Now from here, I got to just follow my right triangle trig steps. Identify the angle. Well, that's my x. Identify my sides. 100's opposite. 110's the hypotenuse. Now pick my trig function. So sine is that. Cosine ka. Tangent toa. So I got opposite and hypotenuse. So that means I'm going to use sine. And now I just write my equation. The sine of x is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. From there, solve it out. And you should get, remember when you solve for the angle, you do the inverse. So you should get the inverse sine of 100 over 110. And then from there, you get an answer of, let's see, inverse sine of 100 divided by 110. And we get an answer of 65.38. So 65.38. What's the number after that? 0. Okay, 380 degrees. That is the safe angle of elevation. And that's it. That's our final answer there. Okay, so that's our last piece of notes for today. We do have a quick recap if you guys want to take a look at that. But basically, after this recap, guys, if you have the worksheet there for angle of elevation, angle of depression, and then solving right triangles, get some practice with that. But then also you got a review sheet for the test tomorrow. So that review, what I'm going to do is make videos for each problem on the review. So individually, a video for each problem. And you can check out those videos to kind of get an explanation of how to do each of those problems. And tomorrow when you come in, you'll take some time to go over those review problems. And after that, your test on right triangle trig. And then I'll see you guys on Monday. Pretty exciting stuff. Okay, guys, have a good Thursday. Bye. And don't forget to study. If you want to pause, I'll put up these answers for the recap right now. All right, guys, so there are those answers. There'll be questions like these on the review, so we'll kind of go over those when we do the review questions. All right, again, guys, have a good Thursday.